Story time about how my best friend outed me on purpose. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. My ex-best friend and I have known each other for 10 years. The problem is we come from very different backgrounds. Her parents are super liberal. She got a tattoo when she was 15. Her parents took her to get the tattoo. They've given her all the freedom in the world. My parents are the opposite, super strict and religious. I knew I liked girls from the age of 8 years old. Watched a movie with Jessica Alba. Need I say more? I knew that this was going to be hard for my parents. So that's when I decided I would never tell them. I would just wait to move out and date whoever I wanted. But my best friend thought differently. When I was 13, I came out to her parents. They were incredibly supportive. They even gave me the birds and the bees talk. Parents were basically like my parents. When I turned 16, my parents wanted to have a formal gathering. You see, we're from the South, a place where debutante balls still exist. Parents at the time were trying to force me, and I'm serious, they were forcing me to date a boy. It would be kind of like an arranged marriage. Comes from a rich political family, so we were the perfect match. At my coming out party, parents were forcing me to dance with this boy. Dance with him for a song, then took me to the backyard and forcefully tried to kiss me. Out of nowhere, he started fondling me. Then he told me that I was his and that my parents want us to get married. Part 2 is story time about how my best friend outed me on purpose. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. After this boy forced me to kiss him and then tried to fondle me, told me that he and I were going to get married because my parents told him. Just keep in mind, I'm 16 at the time. So while my parents are trying to keep me away from bad influences, they are throwing me into the arms of a boy who's literally harassed me. At my coming out party, told him to never touch me again. I ran back into the party and he chased me. Finally went up to my parents and told them what happened. That's when my father sided with the boy. He said that we were going to get married. So it was all true. My bestie and her parents were at the party. They could hear what I was telling my dad. I'm obviously in tears at this point. I mean, I just got harassed at my party, and my parents don't want to do anything about it. It's like this kid has permission to do whatever he wants because we're gonna get married. My best friend came up to my parents and told them that she needed to talk to them, and I knew right away what she was gonna try to say. I pulled her away and told her to just leave it, that I would handle the situation on my own. And trust me, I understand where she was coming from because she loves me, but she had no right to do what she did next. I asked my parents to tell the guests to leave, but no, we had to keep up appearances. And my bestie yells out, "She's gay and you don't even know it." Part 3 is up. Story time about how my best friend outed me on purpose. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. That's when my best friend in the middle of the party yells out, "She's gay and you don't even know it." My dad grabbed me by the arm and pulled me into the kitchen. That's when he said, "What is that about?" And I just started crying. This was literally something I was never, ever going to tell my parents. I did not want them to know that I was gay. My mom starts crying too. And that's when my dad starts crying too. That's when my mom says, "I've known it all this time." Then they started asking me why I was doing this to them, why I was being such a bad daughter. That's when my best friend and her parents come into the kitchen. They told my parents that everybody should just go home. They told all the guests to leave, and then my best friend took me to her house. Guess what? My parents didn't want to speak to me after that. They reproached me every single day. They even wanted to send me to a camp to get rehabilitated. Of course I said no. Oh yeah, and remember the boy they promised me to? My parents invited him and his parents over for dinner, and this guy tried to kiss me again. He got me alone in the laundry room and literally went to town. I pushed him away and threatened him. This guy's literally crazy. As soon as I turned 18, I moved out. My parents don't really speak to me. And I broke up with my bestie. She's always begging me to forgive her. Should I? Story time about how I became a yacht girl. Here's the definition if you do not know what a yacht girl is. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Repeat, this is not my story time. I blew up on Instagram back in 2016. The amount of men that I had in my DMs was disgusting. Rich men, poor men, whatever kind of man you can think of, they were in my DMs. I quickly realized the effect that I had on men, especially the rich ones. Little backstory. Back then I had a friend who was an ESCORT. If you don't know what that means, please Google it. This girl would tell me all the time to join the agency that she was with. I just couldn't bring myself to doing that. She did make good money, but it wasn't good enough. Now, she did tell me that she never slept with the guys, but I knew better. I'm what you would call an Insta model. I know, so 2016. That's the simple truth. Started getting a lot of modeling work through my Instagram, and I started working with some brands. But this was not enough money for me to pay my rent and help my parents out. At the time, I didn't have anybody managing my social media, whereas now there's a million agencies. Back then, I was just figuring it all out on my own. Fast forward to 2017. Remember that friend I mentioned who was an ESCORT? Told me about this thing called yachting. It's when girls go on a yacht, sometimes one or many rich men. They are paid to stay on that yacht to entertain and be companions to these men. She was gonna do it for the first time, so she told me that she would let me know how it went. A month later, she comes back home. You guys want to guess how much she was paid? She got paid $80,000 to spend a week on a boat, traveling to Greek islands, eating really good food, and she even got a diamond bracelet out of it. When I asked her what she had to do, she just raised her eyebrows. She didn't say anything, but she told me that she had a great time and that luckily the guy who hired her was pretty young and very attractive and also very famous. The type of fame that if anybody found out what he was doing, he would immediately be canceled. I decided to do it myself. She gave me the number to this one woman who basically connected all these rich people to yacht girls. I messaged her and then I had to send her all of this information. I even had to go get blood work done. This was legit. She sent me back some paperwork and that was it. Not 2 days later, she called me for a job. She said, "Grab your passport and your purse. That's all you're gonna need. Obviously, I had to take my skincare with me, so I took a little carry-on. He told me it was gonna be me and 4 other girls, that we would spend 4 days with the billionaire on his yacht. I got paid $5,000 up front, and as soon as I got on the boat, I recognized 2 of the girls. Very famous Instagram girls. Very famous. Part 2 is up. Story time about how I became a yacht girl. Here is the definition in case you don't know what it is. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. I repeat, this is not my story time. As soon as I get on the yacht, I see 2 very, very famous Insta models. Can't say the name, but they were extremely famous. Like, you would recognize their face right away. I was so nervous when I got on the yacht, my knees were trembling. One of the other girls, who I didn't actually recognize her face, this girl read me like a book. She knew I was a first-timer, so she took it upon herself to explain to me what was gonna happen. I appreciated her help. This day, her and I are besties. Told me when the billionaire would arrive, we would basically just party. Even if I didn't want to party, I had to party. But I was ready for it. Told me to have fun, and that if there was anything that I didn't want to do, that I should just go to her so that I can discuss it with her. Oh boy, and I did. All of the girls and I kind of talked, and we chose our bedrooms. Then the billionaire showed up. To my relief, he was young, he was hot, and super famous. And he was super fun right away. He talked to us like we were all his friends. There was nothing romantic about it. Let me just tell you how big the yacht was. It had 8 bedrooms, a medium-sized pool and a jacuzzi, and literally the most amazing kitchen. Part of the fun was actually getting to hang out in the kitchen. A few of the girls and I decided to cook. The chef on the yacht was amazing. Basically taught us a bunch of stuff. Remember I told you the lady that got me the job told me not to take a suitcase? Well, when I opened my closet, it was full of designer dresses. And there was also skincare and some makeup. And a lot of bikinis, like I said. The only requirement was that we wear bikinis all the time. And I had no problem with that. There was always music on, and we were always able to just do whatever we wanted. That's when the billionaire came up to me and told me that I was really pretty and that he wanted to talk to me. We sat at the front of the yacht and we talked for about 2 hours. We started talking about marine life. I graduated from marine biology, so he was super interested in everything I had to say. I was pleasantly surprised to see how respectful he was. There was nothing weird or even pervy about him. Like, he was just a regular dude talking to a regular girl. After the 2 hours, they had dinner for us ready. That's when all of the girls and I got dressed up and we looked fabulous. But you guys, I caught feelings for this dude so quick. I'm not even joking. The entire dinner, I couldn't stop looking at him. And he noticed. I'm sure this was his tactic, you know? Get me by myself and talk to me about life so that I could just fall in love with him. Well, let me tell you what I did. I made sure to sit next to him the entire night. And then, you know what? I made around $60,000 for that job. After that, I decided to do yachting about once a month. I was getting so many offers that I couldn't keep up. But at the same time, I did want to prioritize my parents. I made more than $1 million my first year, paid off all my parents' debt, and I paid off the mortgage on their house. Remember the billionaire that I went on the first trip with? I see him almost every single month. He always flies me out to wherever he is, but no, he does not want a relationship. And I'm not trying to be one of his baby mamas. I definitely don't want to do this too much longer though. The billionaires and millionaires are not always good-looking guys. They're not always nice, let me tell you. This one guy slapped me once because I didn't want to go into a bedroom with him, so I'm starting my own businesses. Can you guess who some of the yachting girls are? Bye!
Am I wrong for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? I, female 17, still live at home, and my sister, 28 female, is married and has 2 kids, 5 and 3. The thing is, whenever she comes over to visit, my parents and her stick me with the kids. This wouldn't be a problem, except she doesn't visit for just an evening. She'll come for a week, and for that week, I'm an unpaid nanny. If we go out to a restaurant, I have to entertain them because my mom needs to talk to my sister and my brother-in-law. You get the picture. Well, my parents decided that since it was my last summer before I become an adult, we go to Disneyland. You know, to celebrate my graduation. But when I asked who was going, they said it was 3 of us. But when we arrived at the airport, my sister and her family were there, and guess where they were going? Strangely enough, Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport and I put it in my sock. And at security, I couldn't find it. Am I wrong for losing my passport to avoid babysitting on my vacation? It was supposed to be me and my parents, but when we got to the airport, my sister and her family were there, and strangely enough, they were going to Disneyland. I went into my backpack and grabbed my passport and I put it in my sock. But when we got to international security, I couldn't find it and we looked everywhere. So I had to Uber home and I missed my flight. Oh well, I get to stay home by myself for a week of peace and quiet. But my parents were mad at me for losing my passport and the money they spent on my flight and entrance. And now my mom and sister are both posting how hard it is to be at Disneyland with 2 little ones. Also that I ruined the vacation by being so thoughtless. But my dad says he knows why I did it and he understands, but also says I should have let him know so he didn't waste money. I do feel bad about wasting the money, but I've been to Disneyland before and I will go again later by myself or with my friends.